Welcome to the Driven to Succeed Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Olson. And tonight, I should say, it's later in the day. It's the first time we're shooting at night. I have a special guest, and Anthony Rodriguez from the EXP Advisory Group,
Yep.
the Advisory Realty Group at EXP.
Yep.
And Anthony, I found you on Facebook, like a lot of people. I have connections out there, and I looked at your previous stuff, and like, man, you've been in this business just a few years, and you work full time as associate architect, and you did 10 million plus in the last 12 months in sales,
Crazy,
real
right?
estate. That's
Right.
dude, that's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
from a part-time standpoint, because that's literally part-time. Well, now
Yeah.
you're probably working it more as a full-time. You got two full-time jobs almost. You're
Yeah.
doing that kind of numbers. But I know people that do part-time real estate, and they're lucky if they can get 1 million to 2 million a year, right?
Right. Right.
Part-time, and you 10x, 20x that. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Really what it comes down to is just getting out there, coming to the game with some juice, just being ready to help. Communicating with clients, talking with them, going in from one of my careers into the real estate career. They're both related,
Right.
There's some value there where, I have clients that are wanting that professional with them that is not trying to get them into any home, but the right home.
Right.
So when I'm in there, it's a funny thing. I'm actually talking them out of some of the homes.
Sure.
Saying, do you guys really want to go in this house? The furnace is old. Your roof is old. I don't really trust these issues. But I always leave it up to them because,
Right.
I guide, but they decide.
Yeah, 100%. And let's dig into a little bit of this. You're local. You grew up in Minneapolis area, right? Irondale. You went to school in Irondale, right?
Yep. Iron jail. Yeah.
Iron Jail. My sister and her husband, their kids went to one of their kids, and they're
Yeah.
anyway, go to Irondale. Anyway, Iron Jail. That's awesome.
That's just the nickname I came up with.
Yeah, that's great. But then you went into architecture. You worked for Lifetime, right?
Yep, I worked for Brahma,
Yeah.
cool guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, he is what he is. Like, he is healthy fitness. He is everything what he sells in that brand. So when I met him and I talked with him a couple of times, I even got to meet Jason Momoa with him.
Oh, right?
Yeah, Aquaman. So,
Yeah, right.
and of course, I said the dumbest thing. I go, "Hey, we kind of look alike."
I love it.
Dumbest thing you could say, Aquaman.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
I've done it too. You meet somebody, you just don't know what to say. And like, I think I did that in Vegas one time to Quentin Tarantino. I know I did. And it was
Really?
embarrassing as hell. And like, did I really just say that? Like, well, yeah, you did.
Yeah, but isn't like Quentin Tarantino like super tall?
Yeah. This may have been, this is
Yeah,
Vegas.
yeah,
This was
yeah.
on my bachelor party. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah,
I put it that way. It was rough.
Yeah.
But anyway, but impressive. You started at Remax, and then now you're at the EXP. A lot of people, I've, so many people changed over the last number of years, EXP, and it's
Yeah.
really a great program. But just tell me, like, okay, so you do in your architecture work, right? So you work on home plans, right?
Typically I'm doing more commercial. So
Commercial, okay.
commercial buildings, it's a different material palette. So I'll be using like steel, concrete, a lot of metals and like, industrial materials.
Sure.
But then like when I go into real estate, that's where I have a little bit of a different material palette. We're talking, wood construction,
Right.
trusses, things like that. And to me, that's really kind of where I diversify it and I kind of have more fun. I mean, it's like I can have one where I'm doing, the commercial materials. And then when I go into real estate, we're using a totally different set, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So with that being said, I mean, like, do you ever envisioning like building all your own, like getting your own stuff at all,
Oh
or?
man, every day. Like I but see, if I did it, mine would be so weird that I think the zoning people would be like,
That
I'd be like Frank Gehry. I'd be using chain link fence and stuff like that. I would, try to like break and push the box because, if you're your own client,
right?
you can really push some like creative ideas because that's a hard thing with architecture. You can have these really cool ideas,
Yep.
but you need a client to fund them.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I've recently, got on this kick, and I've been and I get a lot of traction off of my followers on Facebook and Instagram, and then I post a lot of I started with black homes and like the new like look with the black homes and like these luxury homes, and then then all of a sudden I started doing that, and now I'm getting all these barn dominiums and like barn dominiums, and people get a lot of track. Like, people love barn dominiums, right? Number one, a lot of people want to move out, have their own space, and they're looking at these things, and it's hard to finance barn dominiums because there's not enough of them out there. You got to get comps, and you got to get all this and whatnot, so it's a little bit harder with that. But I mean, there's some cool plans in these barn dominiums, and
I know. I
they,
see you post them on Facebook all the time. Every time I go on Facebook, you've got some crazy cabin or something like that on there. And I'm like, where does he find this stuff?
Well, it's the algorithms because also now I'm getting these things, and I got someone reached out to me now, and now I'm starting to work on being able to get some plans together because people started asking like, hey, how do we want to build this, right? Like, how do you build that? Like, and I'm just posting pictures, and some of them are AI generated, right?
Well,
But
you got a friend that'll make them real now.
yeah,
Yeah,
right here, man.
like
This
me
is
on this
this is
show and
exactly
everything.
why I
Yeah.
brought you on, right?
Free drawings.
Free tries. Hey, I put 40 hours into this. Okay, let's talk about that. What is, when you're building a building, what is the typical work that goes into, like, to design it? How many hours?
Tons, tons.
Right,
And it's
right.
not just really me, it's
You got
really
a group of people doing it,
loads of people. Like
right,
when I was at Lifetime, we had 130 there. 130, engineers, interior designers, architects, and they're all coming together to build, those big clubs. Now, if you scale that down and you talk about like say a school or something, you might only have like 5 or 6,
mm-hmm.
people on a project like that. Some of the other projects, like if it's an office remodel, it could only be like 2 or 3.
Sure.
But it's a lot of things like checking fire code, egress, just things that, that the reason why you would want to pay a design professional because you want them to catch the things that some people aren't going to see.
Right, right. Well, there's just so much that goes behind all that stuff, and you walk into a building like, this is amazing, then then really to find out how it was actually built. And
Well, your building's amazing. I mean, I came here and it's like it's such a cool program because it's like half industrial and then
Mhm.
it's also like these office spaces. That's kind of really like how they juxtaposed it like that.
Right.
I mean, I'm seeing that in Northeast a lot because that was
Hmm.
a very big industrial area that now is like doing that with artistry lofts.
Right. Right.
And that's super cool. And they're doing a lot of microbrews too. So
Right.
St. Louis Park here, I think they've got, their foot kind of showing some of those same kind of program where they're juxtaposing the two
Yeah.
together, which is really cool.
Yeah. This building used to be like Nestle owned it for a while, and so and then there's a big history behind this building, and we got it a year ago, a little over a year ago, I think October of 2022, and we built it so we could bring in, like tomorrow we have an event. 130 people are going to be here for a whole year,
Jeez. Wow.
all agents. We got right now we got things going for first time home buyers, all the DPA programs. Like, there's so many. I was just looking at it yesterday, and we got, a new one that my client's using, Come Home to Edina, 90 grand. Minnetonka has 50 grand. And then you have a lot of the other ones, the Minnesota housing. But now there's going to be the big one for tomorrow is literally talking about land trusts. So where, let's say the property is going to be $280,000. Well, the client, their income doesn't support a 280,000, right? But they can lease the land, buy the home, And now the land is like say 120 grand or 90 grand. That brings that 280 down to, below 200, and now that payment's affordable, right? So
Wow, that's
so
cool.
so that's a new program. So the Rondo project at St. Paul, Rondo program, we got that kind of running. Most lenders aren't doing it. There's some nuances on it, but they closed. I mean, we closed one in 21 days,
Jeez,
couple
wow.
couple weeks ago. So they're relatively good. I'm going to get more information. I haven't done one of those loans yet, so I know I talked to an agent and like, oh, we want to stay away from that. I'm like, well, I'll give you some cliff notes on it. And like, it's because I know they particularly do a lot of first time home buyers. And I cut my teeth in the industry doing first time home buyers. And, when rates went up, I lost like half of my business
Oh,
because we were like, okay, you're approved for 250. Oh, you're approved for 185, like 3 months later, right? I
hmm.
mean, it just skyrocketed and it changes the payment so much. So anyway, let's talk a little bit more about your real estate. So what made you decide to get your license?
So while I was at Lifetime, COVID happened. That 130 team turned to 30.
Right.
And then my friend Travis, his dad, Dennis at Remax, found out that there's this out of work guy who bartended through college and he can talk to people. Like, he's like,
There's your real background, the
the
bartending. Let's face
bartending.
it,
Yeah, let's
man.
say that. All right, bartending got me into real estate. So um, he basically said, I've never paid for anybody to get their license or get all this stuff together. And, he was such a cool guy because, like, school or learning was just going and talking with this guy, and it was stories. So there was no book, there was no formality. Everything he taught me was like in the form of a story. And I loved it because I could just sit there and talk with Dennis all day. And at the end of his stories, there was always these like key takeaways. And I mean, he did have some books he, recommended to read. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich was
Yep.
one of them. And then he had a couple others. He was a really big Buffini fan. So he's like, read Buffini, follow Buffini, and you'll be okay. And sure enough, things kind of just started to pave the way after just, two books.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Just two, man. I
Yeah.
mean, that's impressive. Like, you turn that corner 3 years later, you're doing numbers that most people don't do, period, right? This year, 2022, 2023 is super hard in the industry. And I mean, there's so many people that literally thrived in it too, right?
Hmm.
And you can see them and you can see, and it's just like, you're talking to some other people, and that's where, I could easily fall into it too, where it's like, oh man, it's so down, it's so down. Well, you got to get creative, got to
Yeah.
figure out how to take that next step, right? So, like, you know, obviously you probably have with basic your energy is so impressive, right? That's the best thing, right? Is your energy,
Yeah, would you believe I've been quiet on a computer for 8 hours?
right?
I have not said one wo I talked with one of the associate architects for, like, an hour today, but outside of that, I was just cranking out building plans.
Nice.
And now
Nice.
I'm here, and I'm
Now,
like,
now
"Oh."
let's go, right? You got
Yeah.
a showing after this.
So, and I mean, think about that though. So it's like if I go to these showings, right, and I'm like doing something highly introverted and I juxtapose it with
Right,
something highly extroverted. I mean, I'm like Santa Claus when I come to these showings. I'm like coming with this
that-
energy, like I'm
right,
thriving. I'm looking for like people to connect with and talk with.
right,
So it's like, and then not only that, I'm trying to give them a hand and just
right.
help them. So it's like you've got this guy who just wants to be with people, like dying for it, and who also wants to help them.
Mhm.
So if we're looking at the numbers, it's like right
It
there.
the what are they? The proof is in the pudding, right? So I sold cars before I got into mortgage, right? Sold cars. I went into auto finance. I only sold cars for 3 years. But when I sold cars, I ran out the door to go get a car, and I'd come back and like, I was in school in St. Cloud, came down here and started at Toyota in Brooklyn Park, Toyota City. And I was nervous. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna cut it, up there. I wasn't the top guy up there. And I come down here and it was like the work ethic of the salespeople in that store was like zero, right? So, and
Really?
I was like, and I was getting paid real commissions at the time. Before I'd get like $100 to sell a car and like $12 an hour. Like I was making like $22,000 a year. And I'm like, and then when I was interviewing, like, oh, they paid this much. Like I can make 70 grand. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome, right?
So that got the fire
So,
going. Yeah.
on my first day on a Saturday, I was nervous, didn't know anybody, and and like we get done with the 8:30 meeting, we get done, and everybody's sitting around, and I go out, and the first people come in, and or drive into the parking lot, and it's just like I don't know. There's some movies out there that you can watch, and it's just like all the salespeople just like they just took off, right?
What?
And I'm like, all right, I'll talk to these people and like sold the car. The first hour is like on the job, right?
Really?
First 2 hours or whatever it was. And then, and I was looking at my commission. I'm like, holy shit, I just made like $700. So and then from that point on, it was like game over. I just ran, I did everything. But going back to what I was trying to get to is when you bring that kind of energy and then you have that, and like, I love helping people.
Yeah.
You know, I learned that sometimes I would talk too much about the car, and then people would be like just deer in headlights, right? And then I
Hmm.
just like, okay, they don't need to know all of this, right? They only need to know some of this, right? So let's
Hmm.
find out what it is. So you hone it and you get to it. But the energy piece, and if you can bring that in real estate, and you obviously you just have it, right?
Yeah. I mean, you'll see me roll up in Little John and like I'll be playing 3 6 Mafia, whatever.
Right.
And I'll come up with my glasses on and they'll be like, that didn't seem like the guy that was going to get out of that car.
Right.
It's
That's awesome.
like,
That's awesome. That's funny.
uh,
Um, what do you see your future as? Like, I mean, like if it takes off, man, you're gonna have
honestly, I want to just keep giving people there's a big need to help like people in the market. There's,
right,
first time home buyers, downsizers, job relocators, I mean everything, they're there. They're never going to go anywhere.
right, right.
So as long as they're there, I want to be the person to give them a hand.
Hmm.
And however that is, if it's, somebody that's getting two knees replaced and they need a new condo and they need me to redesign a new place for them, I'd be happy to do that for them too. Um,
That's nice to have that in your back pocket, right?
yeah,
Like,
I
hey,
just
we could
ended
do
up
this,
doing
we could
that.
do that, right?
There was a nice guy I met. He had such a like sad story. Like he could not live in the place he was at because physically he had so many things going on with him. And I said, I got to get you out of here and I got to get you into a place where you can actually live safely.
Right,
So for me, that was like, there was no cash that I was making on that thing. I'd redesigning his new condo and making it like for him or anything. It was all about just helping this guy out,
well,
really.
how good does that make you feel though, man?
Oh
Like,
God, I love it.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's its own I mean, for me, that's like what I would count my fortune in.
right.
So it's like, the gratitude that I get. I just had a family this past Sunday. They came and gave me tamales. They gave me tamales
That's
and they're like,
nuts.
"We brought you tamales." And I was like, "Yes." And I had a bag of tamales. I'm like, "Anytime you guys want to see a house, let's go.
Right,
Whatever.
let's
I
do
don't
it.
care." Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
think we're going on Thursday to see homes, so that'd be
Sweet.
fun.
Nice. Where do you get most of your leads? What do you do?
So it's a mix now. So I have been doing a lot with Zillow. Zillow's been a good partner.
Yep.
And that's just because, like, yes, I do have that background.
Hmm.
So for me, it's a very synergistic partnership. It's
Right,
like if you have that experience and you have that background, you don't want to partner that up with somebody that can't match that horsepower.
right,
So when I match with Zillow, it's like there's people that can get that value that need it.
right,
So if there are people that are, trying to get something a little bit more extravagant and, they reach out to Zillow, I wouldn't have that connection otherwise. So,
right, right,
I got to give gratitude to them. And then now it's been some spear businesses started to come in where people have been like, "Hey, can you help my cousin out? Can you help my brother?" All this other kind of stuff. And I'm always happy to do that.
right.
Because wherever the need is and wherever somebody needs a hand, I'm there to just give them a good helping hand.
Yeah, I mean that's your sphere. Once you get you obviously got now the experience in it on multiple levels from an architecture standpoint. Number one, number two. Now you've done so much in the last few years, that first couple of transactions kind of rough, right?
Oh my gosh. You like there, you'll never forget your first. Oh,
No,
your
man.
first are kind of like so memorable. And I remember when I was with Dennis, right? He was like Remax's top 50 all time. He's in this book that's like printed. So of course, when I came in there, I'm thinking like Jordan Belfort. I got to just bang the
Right,
phones for
right,
8 hours a day.
right,
And if you ask anyone at Remax in Andover, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Anthony left at 8 p.m. and he was just on the phones.
right,
That's all I did."
right,
And within like, I don't know, 20 days, I got my first sale, which was a really like eye-opening thing because it's like if you get on the phones and if you're on them for 5, 8 hours, you
right.
will get a transaction. You
100%.
just can't give up. You have to keep going and going. You'll get the no's, you'll get people hanging up, you'll get all that stuff, but you can't let up, you know.
Right,
And when you do get that resistance from a caller that's like, I hate marketers or whatever, it's just got to be like water on a duck's
right,
feathers.
right,
Just rolls right off and
right,
you just kind of keep going. So, I mean, where it's, been with just doing that first, it like, I don't want to say it gets easier because each transaction has its level of complexity. There's
sure,
always like something new that might come in there,
right.
but
But now you
that
have the resources behind you. You know where to go. You know what answers, maybe what not to say,
yeah,
right?
the mechanics are there. So
Right,
like the fundamentals, the foundation. So like even that, I think, you see that big beautiful house, right? Well, it's built on blocks.
right,
It's built on those like foundation blocks. And that's what I like condition myself every day is to like build on my blocks every day. So if it's like I don't know anything about what you were telling me with your new program that you're
right,
rolling out, where you're buying the house cash
right.
for someone. And you got to talk more about this thing because I like this. This is
Yeah.
actually really cool. And it's like you add on to that.
Hmm.
Like you add more onto that, like your foundation, and it just kind of grows from there.
Yeah. No, what you're talking about is, I mean, it's like, oh, we got the Super Bowl coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do these guys get to the Super Bowl, right? They fundamentals every day, right?
Yep.
And again, some of the best teams ever was always what did we practice? Fundamentals, right? And why did like I'm a diehard Vikings fan, and what happened at the beginning of this season is we put the ball on the ground, right? And we lost 3 games in a row when we could have easily been 3-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden everybody was saying we were terrible, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not going to go too far down there. But again, we got to go back down to the fundamentals, but the building blocks. And the reason why I came to New American Funding and, I had a unique opportunity to become a branch manager, take the next step in my career. And I had a couple offers on the table when I did it. And I came here because of what they offered from the building block standpoint, right? What they can do to help me succeed, what they're marketing behind. Like we have complete marketing that nobody else, like it's unmatched. And then they're always coming up with innovative ideas. And then they came up with NAF Cash, I believe
That's
2021,
yeah. There we
2022.
go.
So NAF Cash it's amazing for people that are contingent on buying specifically in this market, right? When you were just talking about 6,000 homes on the market, right?
Yeah.
And it's super competitive. Specifically, we're coming into a highly competitive market right now. You know,
Oh yeah.
after the Super
100%.
Bowl, it goes like this. We already have multiple offers. My nephew, he's going to find out tomorrow if he's going to get an offer accepted. This house was on a lake in central Minnesota, 290 days on market, and we're trying to figure out what to do. Puts an offer in, and then and it's a Fannie Mae home path. It's like it's not even a traditional seller. It's a foreclosure, and put an offer in, and they counter, and he didn't sign right then. He's like, he's asking me what to do, and I'm telling him like, you do this, and then they send it back and like, oh, we got multiples. 290 days on market. Also, we got multiples.
Well,
I
so see, that's the
it,
thing.
it, that's the market is
Yeah,
changing, but
so the market is changing and it's fast. And then if you think about your agent, right?
yeah,
So we're talking about my background with architecture. When I came into real estate, I didn't pick up one book on homes.
right,
All my books that I picked up were negotiation books. So like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss
Yep.
trumps The Art of the Deal.
Yep.
I mean, when I go with a client, it's not like I'm like, here, let's give them what they want.
Hmm.
I'm there to on their behalf, and I say, I don't work for the seller, I work for you,
Yep.
and let's see how much we can get off of this house. Let's see if we can get that inspection. Let's see if we can't get you a better term on your deal,
Yep.
because that's what a good agent should be doing. They should be fighting for their clients to get them in the best possible position, getting them the best deal without leaving a nickel on the table.
Right. No, I mean, that's exactly what you need to do. I've seen too many people that really don't know how to negotiate,
Oh, I
right?
love negotiating.
I
I
can
love,
see you being
I
good at it.
love
That's for
that.
sure.
I love, and if you read Chris Foster's Never Split the Difference, there's little tricks like mirroring, accusation audits,
Well,
labeling,
yeah,
and
just asking the same question, right?
yeah,
Like
it
get them
is,
to get them to respond first. Now you know
yes,
what you got,
the
right?
art of silence.
Right, right,
Just say something, and then whoever speaks first.
right. Do you, speaking of which, do you have, I have a copy of a book for you. It's down in the truck. I forgot to bring it up. It's called Fanatical Prospecting. Have you ever heard that?
Well, I'll take that. Yeah, that
Okay,
sounds really
it's a
cool. Yeah.
fantastic book. I mean, like cover to cover, there's everything in there. Talking to your sphere, different things and so forth. And I know we got back to nav cash, right? So I'm gonna get back.
That
I
is
want to tell you a
no, no,
story.
no, because honestly, that's I just learned that today. So I'm
Yeah.
talking about building on
Right.
blocks, and
So
you're
let's
telling
give
me
you,
about
I'm going to
that
give you a
cash.
building block right here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Navcash is it's a subsidiary of New American Funding, right? So
Okay.
it's another company, sister company. What they built it for was this market, buying homes for people that are contingent buyers that couldn't get home.
Right.
Like you go into the table, there's 10 other offers on the table and you got a contingent buyer. They just offer after offer after offer, and they're getting
Yeah.
turned down, right? Sellers are like, oh, they're contingent and selling their house, even though the likelihood they're going to get their house sold tomorrow is great,
Yep.
right? If they just get it on the market, people weren't putting it on the market because, like, what do I do if I get it sold? Right? I got to move.
Yeah.
So anyway, contingent buyers is the number one piece it's for, right? We will buy the house that they're going to buy, the one they're going to move into, cash, right? And there's a small fee because we got closing costs and everything associated with it. But generally speaking, you can usually make that up by offering less, right? So prime example, we had an offer for a 470,000 listing last year. Um, Borrowers, NAV cash approved. They got to get approved first for the program, make sure it's all ready. But we went in, offered 490. There was 12 plus offers, and the agent kind of gave up that it's probably going to take 515 or more. And we still got it for 490 cash closing in like 2 weeks. Right.
I've got somebody I want to use that with right now. So
Well,
yes,
let's
yes.
get number one, let's get you certified.
Set up. Yeah.
And but then
Okay.
it's also great for the people that literally they don't have a home to sell.
Yeah.
They can still use that, right? They don't have to use it. Like if you go in, there's no other offers on the table, we can write a traditional offer. But if there's a bunch of other offers in it, you don't have to go that full price. Well, we can close early, we can get this and get them cash. We have proof of funds. It's perfect. Let's just say they do have that house to sell, right? You move in a new house, as long as you got your house coming soon prior to moving in, and you get it, we rent that new house back to you until you can close on that house. And then let's say you got 200 grand in value. Now you put it on a new house. You don't have to recast a loan. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So it's a very, very good product. And we go up to 2 million bucks as we'll buy a home for cash with.
Dang, that
So
is a deal you can't beat. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah. So when we're going into this market, things like that, um, having a good lender, you at the New American Funding, you guys are on the front lines. You guys are making calls to listing agents.
mhm,
All of that's coming up right now, and we know that this market's going to be competitive, and we know that it's going to be which agents have these tools in their toolbox.
right,
The agents that do have things like NAF cash,
right.
good lenders who are making those calls to the listing agent saying, hey, we've checked their financing. These guys are good to go.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to succeed, and they'll have the numbers because their numbers will show it. But it's like if you're not building on those blocks and you're getting things like that, yes, you're going to be saying the market's tough.
Right.
Champions never do that. Champions never think of excuses. They just get better. They train harder. They focus on the fundamentals.
It might take you 10 times more calls to get that buyer than it did before, right? But you still make those calls, you still go after it, you still get
Oh yeah, AJ and Josh at the advisory group will tell me to call. They will.
it. Get calling, man. Get
AJ and
calling.
Josh will be like, follow up is our thing. They will talk about that till they die. Like
Yeah,
but they're both good people, so
right.
I like them because you got to have someone to push you.
Well, I've always believed, I've built a team, I've built a tech company, and the people that I've surrounded myself are some of the best people. Not just in I look at character as a whole too. Like, I want to be able to make sure I can work with them too.
Sure,
And the people that I can't, we end up parting ways. It is what it is. It happens. But you want to surround yourself with the best of the best, right? Number one, you learn a lot,
sure,
right?
yep.
And number two, I mean, if anything comes up, like it's you got the right people, the mentors of it. Hey, how do you handle this? And how do and in a professional way. And I learned that the hard way in my first, year of transactions. And there's so much in finance, and things are changing. I mean, I'm learning stuff every day, right? I'm still learning stuff. And then guidelines change. But if you have a mistake, you can't, make it happen again. But the biggest thing, how are you going to handle that mistake, right? And if, because it's inevitable. It happens. It happens to some of the best. And I always had the thing where it's like, if something happened, you have 24 hours to find a solution. And in 99% of the time, there's a solution, unless it literally is like they lost their job or something, right? But there's usually a solution. We have a solution. We can figure out how to make it work. And then you have either the tough talk, or you can have the, hey, here's what happened, here's what we have, this is how we're going to fix it, and this is what we're going to do, these are the things that we need to do, and we can get it done. And it's such a, and the people, like, people get it, they understand, and things like that. So but by surrounding yourself, learning from the best, being around good people, having the energy that you have,
Iron sharpens iron,
iron sharp,
right?
literally
Yeah,
gonna
it
say it like
is.
that.
I mean, it's like, yeah, Remax had that 100%. Remax results, they had a lot of good agents there. And I mean, I learned a lot from them just
Mhm.
because these guys were, the school of hard knocks. They were like, here's a PA, you write it, and that was it. You were kind of
Right,
on your own to do it.
right.
But now it's like the game has changed so much with tech. And I mean, you would know too, being, with a tech company, that all your resources, if you really think about it, are available online.
Hmm.
Like every answer that you could possibly want in the world
Right,
is all on the web.
right,
And it just means like when you come across a problem, someone's either not searching enough or they don't care to learn it. Because if
right,
they did, they would be like, I'm going to go through this website, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to find it. And those kind of people are the ones that are actually getting that knowledge and retaining it.
right.
Because when it's given, because I used to tutor some people at my first college, I was a tutor. And the funniest thing that I realized is I could show somebody how to do something and they would be back next week and they're like, I don't remember it. But if I let them sink a little bit
Right.
and like try, they would get it and they never forgot it. Like
100%.
they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah,
y-
I remember how to do that and everything."
Right.
And it could be as simple as like a software program. If I was teaching them how to use something, and they struggled with it, it'd be 2 seconds if I did it.
Right.
But if they, kind of creatively thought in the problem a little bit, they kind of come up with their solution and then it just retains better.
Right. Yep. Everything is, I've always been, you learn on the job. And,
Learning
I,
on the job.
I literally went to school with a full intentions to get a full business degree. Well, I got into selling cars after my associate's degree, and I was making decent money, and it was
Yeah.
like, well, okay, next thing I know, I'm making six figures, and like, well, I'm not going back to school. So I've had to read all the books I could, books on audio. I go to the gym and I listen to audiobooks and not music, and like,
Yeah.
sometimes my workout sucks for it, but I get most of, like, a lot of creativity when,
So no deadlifting to an audio book, right?
right,
Or no weighted
right,
dips.
right.
I mean
Um,
that's the craziest thing when you go to the gym and you see people and they've got like like a barbell around their
right,
waist
and
and
they're
they're
just
doing
doing,
pull-ups.
and they're listening to
Like
the fanatical prospectors.
yes, I mean, that's how you ever see like Mr. T and Rocky
Yeah, yeah,
where he's training in that dungeon? I
yeah.
always thought that's like how you're
I
supposed to
just
train in
watched
the
that.
gym.
Literally like on Saturday.
And I'm like thinking to myself, we're supposed to have these chains around us while we do pull-ups and stuff.
Oh, in the backyard chopping.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Um, Anthony, do you have anything else? Do you want to let your
Uh,
people know it all?
Yeah, to any buyers or sellers that are on the market right now, get in there. You still got time to get good terms on your home. If you're still thinking about it, if you've been on the bench, now is the time to buy, because we're just at that transition right now. Inventory is starting to drop. We're looking at about 4 rate drops this year coming up. So with that being said, you don't want to be on that market when, those drops happen, because you're probably going to be in a saturated market of buyers. So if you get in there now, you can probably still find a house, get good terms, even possibly negotiate. I just negotiated on a house last week that was, really nice. We didn't get it for list. We got an inspection on it. It was a little bit tricky, but Chris Voss has never split the difference. So I
Ah,
leaned on that, and then still got him in there. But I talked with the lender on that deal, and I just said, this might be the last buyer that we're gonna see have a deal like this, where they're gonna get that inspection and they're gonna get under list. So that really kind of enticed me to call these buyers and sellers and tell them right now, if you guys can, definitely get in there.
right. No, that's perfect outlook because if we drop a point, it adds another 5 million people to across the nation, not
Yeah,
Minnesota,
yeah.
but across the nation. It's there's a pent up demand. We can always refinance the terms. In fact, we also have New American Funding also has a rate protection. So if any of your clients finance a loan home with us over the next 5 years, there's no lender cost to refi. So it's about a $2,000 uh, savings.
With you guys?
Yes.
So there you
Right.
go. I mean,
So
you got to use New American Funding.
yes,
There's no
right
other
here,
way.
right here. Man, you're great. You're
Yeah.
great. I'm glad you came on. I'm very happy to get
Bold.
to meet you. Everybody, if you have any questions, obviously we'll have all of the information on our podcast, the YouTube, all the typical podcast channels. But please like and subscribe. Reach out to Tony or myself. Love to speak with all of you. But thanks again, Anthony, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, I'm glad that I came here. I appreciate it.
It's been fun. It's been fun. So
Thank you. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.